There we go. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to February. My name is Anthony. Ooh, I have a title for this. My name is Anthony Brokus. Don't do titles over titles. That's a streaming no-no. My name is Anthony Brokus. I'm the chief gearhead here, and we all make mistakes. Thank you all for being here. As always, I love to say welcome to everyone, and we have a great group of regulars who come and watch this show. I just create a membership or something like that. Love to know where everyone is watching from. So if you're just tuning in, feel free to throw that in the comments if you haven't already. And we already have check-ins from the Pico regulars at Pico Riviera, California. We got Beaumont, Texas. We've got Mike Sabatini in LaSalle, Illinois. Dennis McDowell in Indiana, and no, don't see it. What are you doing? I did not right click. And Mr. Kirk Riley in Dallas, Texas. So thank you all for being there again. And as always, if you have any streaming questions, throw them into the comments because you are here. I am here. We're both here together. And we're going to check some stuff out. I have a YoloCam S3. Now it's weird. I'm looking down on one monitor and it's looks good. I look on my preview monitor in front of me and it's completely washed out. So, we'll see what happens. I have one of those. We're going to be talking about the S3 and we'll be talking about the setup. We'll be talking about the software, and then I've got a brief diversion into USB cables, which is actually very, very important as we're talking about these USB cameras. And then we're going to start doing some comparisons because I've seen so many of other videos are like DSLR killer. I have a few thoughts on that. Let's take a look. Also, a sneak peek. Tiny 3. I can't show you, I can't unbox it yet, but yeah, we got a Tiny 3 in already. So this is going to be fun. Well, that one's going to be fun, and this one is going to be fun. They're all fun. It's all fun, isn't it? What do you think? All right, so first thing is first, the YoloCam S3. It is YOLO's, let's go to overhead. It is YOLO's, well, that doesn't look very good either. Why is it always blurry? Let me iris this down a little bit. There we go. And get a little focus. There we go. This is their little vertical or horizontal. And this is key. It is designed to handle both of these. 4K, not a HD camera. We're evolving beyond HD cameras at this point. Even laptop manufacturers have started to put quality webcams into their devices. Now you can get a MacBook with a super wide angle, high resolution sensor that will crop and follow you and still deliver full HD. They've finally started to put good cameras into laptops. Yay! So of course the webcam people had to step up their game. So that's what we're talking about today. Let's go back to here. And 1/1/3 large sensor. I will give you comparisons of exactly what it means by large sensor. We'll talk about that later on. Fast autofocus, YoloLive AI Compose, and Pro Level color grading. It comes with the YoloCam, a little stand, actually a fairly sizable stand, and it's heavy. USB-C to USB-A cable, which is very thick. We're going to test them. USB-C to USB adapter, because those are important these days, and a manual. There's not much to tell in the manual. So that's the box. And in the box comes another box. And in this box is this bag. And in this bag is the big cable and the adapter. Then you get a long box. And in the long box is 2 more boxes. Are you feeling boxed in yet? I'm not really going to do an unboxing, but this is the camera. And unfortunately, it does not come with a lens cap. I really wish, everybody would just, like Bird Dog came out with their little Mach-E camera, and it's this tiny little portable, battery-powered Wi-Fi, with an optical zoom, little NDI camera, and there's no lens cover. So when you want to pack it, you got to find something else to put it in. It's frustrating. Just give us a little silicone cover or something like that, because even the even smaller OBSBot includes this little magnetic cover here. So, you know, there's that. I'm not going to be talking about the OBSBot. This is not an OBSBot video. If you're interested in the OBSBot meet, I actually did a multi-camera OBSBot meet, all about OBSBot meet, several weeks ago. Go look at that on the videos. Today we're talking about the YoloCam. Let's see, I got a better camera for that. The YoloCam, if I can find it, YoloCam S3. So you can see USB-C. That's basically it. That's the only connection on this thing. And by only connection, I mean there's not even screw threads on here. There's not even a way to thread this directly, which is one of the things that I found rather surprising. Because I have an old Logitech, and the bottom base of the Logitech has a screw thread. And if you look at the even smaller OBSBot Meet, the bottom has a screw thread. But what YOLO did instead is, you can see that little magnet symbol there. And there's one on, not that side, the other side. There's one on this side. So you can stick this onto anything that's metal, and it will just stay there because it's got magnets in it. So here I can use, you know, it just sticks there. And then it sticks there too. Now, this is actually not OBSBot. This is OBSBot's, and the way OBSBot does it, they have the magnets in the base, so I could stick theirs on here. But if I just wanted to stick this somewhere, I can't do that. I have to use this screw thread. This does not have magnets, so that makes this considerably lighter too. But this, obviously, is bigger. And if you were to look at the sensor, the lens itself, actually I should do this to the side. If you look at the size of the lens opening itself, it's definitely got a larger lens opening than the OBSBot. So this is definitely, you know, larger. Well, when they say large 1/1.3, let's talk about that a second. Because when we say large, I'm going to move over here. I got a slide prepared for this. Over here on Petapixel, actually came out with an article today that was today or yesterday that is very apropos. They're talking about the, it's all jumpy all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on. They are talking about how here's your 35mm full frame sensor. That's what, you know, we know as full frame. And then you got APS-H, which is what the article is about, which is kind of forgotten. Then you've got your APS-Cs right here. And then when you come down from that, you've got your 1-inch sensor. And that is kind of like, that's the large sensor for your compact cameras. And then, man, it's really jumpy. I hope it irons itself out. I hope it does. And then you've got the 1/2, which doesn't make any sense. Why all of a sudden are we like in fractions? But then we're over 1/1/8, which is math. And 1/1.8 and 2/3, how does that relate to the Try not to get that reflection in there. Thank you again. 1/1.3. Well, I did the math, and I can tell you that 1/1.3 maths out to 0.77, and 2/3 maths out to 0.67. So really, really close. So when they say large sensor, that blue line right there is the size sensor that YOLO's talking about, the 2/3 or 0.77 sensor. That's what they're talking about. And you can see that that 2/3 sensor is about 1/4 the size of 4/3. And I mention that because I have a 4/3 camera set up for this. We'll get to that. And then 4/3 is 1/4 the size of full frame. So if somebody's shooting with a DSLR that is full frame, and they say this is a DSLR killer, it's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's 1/16 the size sensor of a 35 millimeter full frame sensor. So it's not a DSLR killer. It's not. I'm just being honest. You know, you have to be, if somebody has a 35 millimeter full frame sensor and they put a very shallow depth of field lens on there, they're going to get bokeh and shallow depth of field that this is not going to replicate, because it simply can't, because the sensor is so much smaller. Even my Micro Four Thirds camera can't replicate full frame depth of field. I have to be like, I have to have an aperture that's like two stops, you know, an order of magnitude 2 smaller in order to have a comparable, you know, what they call an equivalent f-stop. So this is very important when you think of it like, you know, ooh, it's got this big sensor. It's not really that big. So I wanted to bring that up because, let's go this way. I wanted to bring that up because, you know, the box and the literature talks about the large sensor. It's large compared to, say, a Logitech or other webcams, which have teeny sensors. Yes, it's larger than a teeny sensor. Yes, but it's not a large sensor. You know, this is not a 1-inch sensor. This is not a 4/3 inch sensor. This is not a full frame sensor. It's a 0.77. So that is what we're talking about today. And I felt that'd be very important when we start talking about large sensor. So these are the different pieces of equipment, and I've already updated these to the latest firmware as of yesterday. So anything you see today is representative as of early February of 2026. And let us get right to work on this, because I have behind this blue drape, so you couldn't see it during pre-show, I've got a laptop set up. And over here, I have a Logitech, and I've got the YOLO that I'm going to bring over here as well. Actually, I should just do that now. Oh, I gotta unplug it. So the way you hook this up is it's a USB camera, and you use a USB cable, and this cable is substantial. It wants to do what it wants to do, and the camera, as well as the weight of the base that goes on top of the laptop, they're both sizable. They have weight. So, you know, you may have to like get it just right. Don't tip your screen back too far, because it may want to pull it back, because they do have some sizable weight. And now I'm going to take a slight diversion, because I found out something very, very critical. And I will put this in the comments here. Not all USB cables are created equal. And it's compounded by the fact that USB-C is also Thunderbolt, is also USB 2, 3, and 4, is also PD power delivery. It's all of these things. And it's very, very challenging to know what a cable can really do. And in plugging in these bigger cameras that need more power and are delivering 4K, they expect a certain amount of bandwidth. So you can't just grab any USB-C cable, because then you're going to be like, this camera's crap, I can't get a reliable frame rate out of it. And it may not be the camera at all, but the crap cable you used. So there are things out there to test your cables, and I wanted to highlight one of those. So what I've got here is, I just got this yesterday. Tridix, I got this on Amazon. If you want to get one of these after seeing this thing, wait till I post the link in the description. I don't think I did that yet. I didn't even peel the thing off. You've got 2 connections over here for USB-C and USB-A, which is also USB 3. USB 3 is backwards compatible with 2. And then on this side, you've got Lightning mini USB, micro USB, the two-sided USB 3 for old hard drives, and USB-C. So you can connect all of those to these two things, and this one's for power. And it's got a built-in battery, so I don't even have to like power this up, but if you got it in like some sort of test bay, you could power it via USB-C and take out the AA battery. And I saw this in somebody else's review, and I was like, that looks like a handy little tool. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to test YOLO's cable and see what it's spec'd out to do. So this is USB-A to USB-C. Now it looks dark. Let me make this brighter. Let's see, this one? Not that way. This way. Okay. So I'm going to plug in. I'm going to turn it on. It's got a little power switch on the side. JDix. Okay. Please connect to the cable. I'm going to plug this in. I always plug it in wrong. So I've got it in there, and then I plug it into USB-C down here. And then it tells me it's USB 2 compliant. It's USB 3 compliant. It's also passing power, but it's not PD power specified. So you're not going to do up to 65 watts PD2, PD3, or PD 3.1. So it's telling you what it is. There's other pages where it'll actually give you the pinouts of what everything is connected in there. It'll give you resistance and tell you if something's shorted in there, and then it'll actually look for a USB-C marker, usually for Thunderbolt, because there's a chip in Thunderbolt cables that will indicate I am a Thunderbolt cable. Come back to here, but this is the key thing. It does data, it does power. I got green lights on both of these, and it tells me USB 2 and USB 3. You know, there's actually a button for USB 2 because there are cables that could possibly not be USB 2. There's really crap cables out there. All right, so USB 3 cable, and it passes power. Good. Now, let's test the dongle. Because if you're plugging this into a dongle, that's part of the signal chain. So we're going to take this, put this on the USB-A side. See if I can get this right. All right, plug this into the C send and the C receive. And now all of a sudden I've got PD power capability because PD assumes USB-C. So it now says the whole system can do PD power now that I've connected it into the USB-C. But you can see I still have USB 2, I still have USB 3.2. So this all the way through, good adapter, good cable. Now, I wanted to also show you, like, you know, the first thing is, man, this cable is just ornery. Can I just use, look, I've got this, let me see if I can find one. I've got this like, oh, you know what? I've got this short cable here. Look at this. This is nice and flexible. It's got USB and USB-C. This would be a good cable to use, right? It's so much easier to use. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's plug these in here, and you can see this cable doesn't pass any data at all. It's got USB, it's got USB-C, but there's no data at all. It passes power. So this is a charging cable that came with something, maybe an external battery. So this will charge, but it doesn't provide data. And I'm going to end up having to use a lot of labels for my labeler to go through it and let me know that I have a drawer full of cables. I hooked this up to my camera. Why is the camera not working? Well, it's not working because it's not a data cable. It's a power cable. Let's see, I've got this one. Oh, this is a fun one. I pulled this one out of the drawer. This one is a lightning cable, and this will test lightning. So let's plug this in here. This lightning cable does USB 2, not USB 3, because lightning never did USB 3. It's always very slow. There's no power transmission, which seems odd until I reveal that the cable actually has a broken connector. So now I know I can throw this one out because it's not going to charge a phone or anything. You know, oh no, my cable's nicked. Does it still work? You don't know. Here's a white cable. Let's put this one in. And this one is also USB-C We're going to come in here and find out this one is also just power. Now, thankfully, I've already labeled this one power so that I know when I pull it out from the drawer, it's just a power cable, because everything comes with these. Well, not everything. Many things come with cables, but do we really know how good they are? Here's a cable. I'm going to plug this one in here and plug it in here. And we see this is USB 2.0 and power, and this is one that came with Rode microphones. So you can see that it's passing both data slowly. It's not a USB 3. You can also tell because it's not blue in there. But it can communicate with your devices to update them, and it does pass power. Very important to know. This one is a micro cable. So we can plug this in here and go into the micro connector. Unfortunately, the micro connector is directional. Right. You can see this one does USB 2.0 and it provides power. So this is a good cable for what it's supposed to do. I don't expect micro to go to USB 3 speeds. Here's a nice anchor cable that I got. This is braided on the outside. It is also a micro, but it's a higher quality, longer cable. And I can see USB 2.0, not 3, and power transmission is available. So that is a good, reliable cable. Here is a USB cable. Where did I get these? This is just as Type-C, and it does not have a maker on there, so it's some knockoff, but it has a blue adapter. So does that mean it does USB 3 for real? I don't know. Now that I have a tester, I can find out for reals that it does pass the USB 3.2 test, and it does provide power. So this one is good for webcams that are going to be doing 4K, and it's more flexible and it's longer. So if I want to put those out there and do different things. Now here's an interesting case, colored connector, and it's USB-C. Well, the last one that I had with a color connector that was USB-C was perfect for this webcam, except this one is USB 2.0 only, not 3. So the fact that it's got a colored connector is lying to you, and it's not a USB 3.0 cable. It does do power, it does do USB 2.0, but it's not going to give me what some of these latest webcams with 4K, and they need the power and they need high bandwidth data transmission. See, I got a couple different things down here. Thanks for helping me spend my money. Should I send the bill to you? Yes, please send the bill to me. Or when I send, no, don't send the bill to me. Send me, I should get a commission on everything that you get. So this has been so valuable to me already for letting me know first that my iPhone cable is trash and the black cables are power only, and that gray braided cable is a good cable for webcams. So worth it. I will put a link in the description to that item later, so don't get it just yet. Don't just run and go get it. I want to say hello to a couple people joined in late. Hey, good to see you. I finally caught one live. Yes, you did. Every Wednesday. There's roughly a 2-second audio delay. Yeah, there was some problem with regards to when I brought up that web page. I don't know why. But that seemed to throw things off. No delay now. Thank you. Good point on the cable tester. I found that to be true when hooking up cable to Osmo Pocket 3 and a YoloBox Ultra. Not all cables work. I like the tester. I must have. Please leave the link. I will. Just, so I make 50 cents from your purchase. Just wait, and I'll put it in the description after the show. I meant to do it before the show, but I didn't. So I apologize. All right. So let us continue. Talking about the cables, that was the key thing in that. Now I know this gray cable is going to be okay. So do I have an, oh no, I got it up there. So when I hook one up over here, I can do that. So what I've got over here is I've got a laptop with the YoloCam S3 already connected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to that laptop right here. And on this laptop, I am going to call up, you can see, you know, I've got a Logitech up here as well. You can't see the Logitech, but if I double click on the Logitech software, you can see, hello Logitech, it tells me it's a C920 or one of the 900s. It's 1080p. Logitech has software where you can go in, you can adjust the exposure, you can adjust the image, you can adjust the focus. But again, you know, you think you need a big sensor for being able to adjust focus at all. You actually don't. Even the little Logitech, I can adjust the focus here, put it in manual and drag this over and boom, it's out of focus. And I have to bring my finger up like really close. Well, yeah, you can pull focus to like a centimeter in front of the lens, but that doesn't really do you any good. So, but basically between me and the background, it's all in focus. You're not going to really get a lot of depth of field unless you're super close and you pull the focus closer to you. Now, enough about the Logitech. We're here to talk about the YOLO Live. Now, yes, connect to the camera. And the YOLO Live software gives you a lot of different settings here. And there's the camera feed. Hello, camera feed. Let's make this full screen, something the Logitech can't do. And this is really handy for checking your focus. Being able to like, listen, I want to see it almost as big as possible. You can't like drag this over and collapse this. Let me see. No, you can't collapse it to get even more of the screen set up. And you can take a picture up here. If you have more than one camera, this would let you select different cameras because multiple USB cameras could be really handy in terms of doing multi-camera, but in a very lightweight, portable way, especially for podcasts. You know, you get people sitting around a table all talking to each other. These are very unobtrusive. This can sit on the table looking at someone and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. I can still have my eye line to the other person and it just captures that moment. So you can come down here, you can see there's a video setting 16:9 or 9:16. You know, you could set those up right there. Set up to 30 frames a second, all the way up to 60 frames a second. Let's try 60. I guess it's thinking, there we go, 60 frames a second. That is super smooth motion. Then we come down to image settings. You can see the color style. Warm colors, Canon, fair tone, cool colors, Sony, you got those. Oops. And then you also have the ability to adjust the sharpness. Whenever I plug these in, they default to a sharpness of 5, which is increasing the sharpness. Yes, everything is going to appear to be sharp when you dial up the sharpness. But I found that even when I dialed it back to 0, it still looked good. It still looked nice and detailed. Whereas when I use the Logitech, the standard setting is just anymore, it just looks soft. It just does not look good. If I crank up the sharpness, like almost all the way up on the Logitech, then it does look crisp compared to today's cameras. But again, it's just an HD camera. It's got a teeny little plastic lens probably. And you know, the default setting on the Logitech just does not compare today anymore. You know, 5 years ago, yeah, it was great. Everybody jumped on those cameras. But these days, you don't have to increase the sharpness on, wait a minute, let's see if I can do this. Nope. You don't have to increase the sharpness on the YOLO camera to get it to look good. It looks good at no increase in sharpness. Dynamic range, you can't adjust. It puts like a little crosshair saying, don't touch that. The contrast actually looks good between the dark and the light. I am a little overexposed. We'll get to that. And here's an interesting thing. A vignetting compensation is defaulted to on. If I turn it off, you can see up here, it's got a bright spot in the center and it's darker over here. And if I put on the vignetting compensation, which is not a dial, it's either on or off, boom. Now it kind of evens out the tone. So apparently that's something within the lens, that there's a vignetting with the lens itself. And then of course in software, you can compensate anything. And I don't want you to think that that's a bad thing, because as a Micro Four Thirds user for many years now, all Micro Four Thirds lenses are corrected in camera. That's part of the specification, because they're only available to digital cameras. There's no Micro Four Thirds film camera. Whereas if you had 35mm lenses, for an old DSLR, they were optical, and what they gave you is what they gave you. There's no correcting. But now with digital cameras, you can actually build a lens a little bit cheaply and then fix it in post. And there are websites out there that will show you for micro four thirds, this is the uncorrected RAW, and it's got all kinds of like chromatic aberrations, stuff like that. And here's the corrected JPEG. Wow, big difference. So correcting a camera is not necessarily a bad thing if they see it has this inherent thing going on and can correct it. It's better than not correcting it. Come down to focus, autofocus continuous, single, face autofocus, or manual autofocus. And again, like with the Logitech, you can drag, I like the fact that I'm dragging it and it's changing as opposed to the Logitech, it waits till I'm done. So I can go right about here, lock it in, and then it's not going to change as somebody moves in and out and does different things. That's good. But I don't know, we're going to try to migrate this to YOLO box to use it on the YOLO box. And that's one of the key things. Right now, let's see if I do this right, this software, all of these controls are only available on the apps. It's not yet available on the YOLO boxes, but I'm told there is work to make the boxes recognize the cameras and then make those corrections available on the YOLO box. And I think that's going to be fantastic when that does happen. So I'm going to put this back on continuous. Zoom, it's a 4K camera. So technically, if I need to, and I'm delivering in HD, I can, zoom this in. Whoa, that's a little close. Waiting for it to focus up. Manual focus. And here you can actually see, the background is in focus, and here I am in focus. So you can see there is a little bit of depth of field even with this small sensor. And that's at real telephoto, and then you can go all the way wide. You can assign hotkeys to this. I'm not going to really get into that. Exposure, auto and manual. Auto exposure, I think it's doing a pretty good job. It's a little bit bright. So down here, there's an EV compensator. I can bring it down one stop. That makes it look a little bit more natural with a little bit less things blowing out. And I don't think I have ever had a webcam that didn't overexpose. All of them do. The OBSBot cameras, I have to like drag that slider down to like -3 to like not blow out my face. And it's just amazing. Like, even if you say, even on the YOLO, the OBSBot, if you say face priority, well, if the face is overexposed and there's no more detail left, it's overexposed. Drop the exposure down, and it doesn't do it. You have to manually go in there and say, yeah, do what you were going to do -3. I think the YOLO S-Cam looks pretty good at -1 stop. So that's pretty good. But if you wanted to, you can dial it in manual with your ISO and your shutter speed. Again, there's no iris in these cameras, so it is what it is. So you can see ISO of 100 is a little low. You come up here. Actually, it looks higher contrast when you're doing manual because the dark side of my face is dark and the bright side is washed out. But if I go to auto, it seems it's using the dynamic range compensation to lighten the dark side. So I'm going to leave it on auto and use the aperture compensation to really make things work. We'll close these up, and I believe that, no, we got one more. That was interesting. It didn't scroll down. So if I open all of these up now, open exposure. Okay, that's just going, there we go. So white balance is at the last one down. You can do auto white balance. I have it on auto, and I have to say, of the many webcams that I've used, this is the most accurate and most pleasing auto I've ever had the experience of. OBSBot, always warm. Their latest update with the software allows you to like put in like an EV compensation, put in a white balance compensation, but the OBSBots tend to always be a little bit too warm. And this one, as you saw, is set up for Canon, a Canon look, which is a warmer look. And I think it looks really good without any adjustments. You could do a blue offset, you could do a red offset. So right here, there's a little dot in the middle, but if you wanted to, you could, drag it over here and correct where you think the color ought to be. I'll just put it back in the middle. And then of course you can do manual, so you can hold up a white piece of paper, manual white exposure, and then lock it in, which is what I would definitely recommend if you're doing a podcast. You know, lock that in so that if somebody's wearing a bright color or something like that and different skin tones come in, you just want it to be locked to the white that's the light that's in the room, not trying to compensate for different skin tones and messing things up. You don't want to make people look bad. Our job is to make them look awesome. Or at least that's what it says on my mouse pads. So this is the interface for the camera, and there's a whole color section, and then there's professional color section. I'm not going to get into that, but it is there, and it is something that the other tools do not have. That does not exist for other webcams at all. You're not going to be coming in here and readjusting things. And then of course, I don't even know what live scene is supposed to be doing. It would help if I read the manual, but you saw I just opened it today. So function description, operational precautions, safety instructions. Yeah, it doesn't tell me what to do in the instruction manual either. So go back to the parameters. Okay, so I can save these as scenes. The scenes is really useful because if you are going to use these in different locations, let's just say you've got a setup and you want to do it at one, a podcast at one lady's house and another podcast someplace else or something like that, you can save these setups in the computer and just load the different scene where you already know the light here looks like this. It's this one's sunlight, this one's indoor light, this one is really dark. I want to adjust the skin tones a little bit. I want the EV compensation and save those things. And that is very handy to have in your little setup here. Now, what I am going to do now is I'm going to bring this heavy duty cable over to my YOLO box. And I have a YOLO box set up right here. Let's go to the overhead. And you can see I've got this YOLO box set up, and that is still booting. It's still booting because I unplugged it. It's got to boot up from scratch. And what I've got here is I've got my main camera, which is this one. There it is. The USB camera is coming up. I have HDMI 2, which is my DSLR, because we talked about, is it the DSLR killer? Let's compare. Let's do this. Again, if you have a question, throw it in the comments. If you haven't, if you're new to the channel, this is the part where I do my advertising. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to StreamTek on YouTube. That's where all the content is, hundreds of videos. And if you're looking for something in particular, you can go to this little search thing and you want to type in YoloCam. Let's type in YOLOCAM. And you will see there's the S3 video, and there's also a show on the S7. So do check those out. And if you're interested in the S7 as well, which is their Micro Four Thirds based camera. Continuing on, you can also find more of me at streamingmedia.com, where I have reviews and articles and a regular column there. If you need to reach out to me for consulting, you can go to streamtek.us, and there's a contact me page. I also created I loaded all these before. Why are these not loaded? I had B4 on Micro Four Thirds, which is putting big ENG camera glass on tiny little Micro Four Thirds cameras, like the YoloCam S7. Or that's my GH4 right there. Over here, if you're interested in multi-camera live streaming, again, go away. I preloaded these. AirMix is a free app for iOS and Android phones to do multi-camera live switching, color correcting, recording, replay, audio mixing, lens correction, and a whole lot more. Scenes, do all of that in AirMix, and it's free. Go check it out. And then we also have, if you're interested in some original art, canvas art, flow art, you can check out 17 Seconds Studio, which is some art being produced by my sister in Alaska. So thank you for enduring my commercial. Let us continue along here. Now that I have both, let's go to overhead. Now that I have both the HDMI 2 and USB 2 locked and loaded. I want to build a, what is this, side-by-side, not a news layout, not a side-by-side, two views, okay? With this one and this one, done. And then we're gonna thin the border out. I wanna make them bigger. Well, no, I don't want that. I don't want them like just sitting there floating in space. That's weird. The scale is actually not making the boxes bigger. It's just making it zoomed in there. That's weird. Let's see if we can find something else. Two views, one. Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Go in here. Whoa. Separator position. Let's put the separator in the middle. And then border thickness is fine. So done. And then go here. And then I can give you this output directly, which is here. So what we have here is YoloCam S3. And over here is my GH4 coming in. I don't know, it's probably not 4K, but HDMI out. These are both coming into the YoloCam. And you can see, first of all, if you're mixing cameras, there's the USB camera is actually just slightly ahead of the HDMI camera. Go figure that one out. So you got a little bit of timing that you may have to work out. But in terms of DSLR killer, the YoloCam is focused on me. The DSLR I pre-focused on me manual. And it's probably more here, I guess. And you can see there's definitely more bokeh in the DSLR camera than there is in the YoloCam. And again, we covered this. This is part of the reason it's a smaller sensor. It's probably less than 1/4 the size of the Micro Four Thirds sensor. And you're not going to get the same depth of field. Now, technically, the apertures are supposedly the same because the YoloCam has a f1.95, I believe it is, and I'm at 1.7 on the Micro Four Thirds camera. But you can see the difference size makes. Size is important. Bigger is better if you want bokeh. Put that down in a saying. Bigger is better if you want bokeh. So this is over here. And if I had a full frame camera, which I actually don't, if I had a full frame camera, this would be like far blurrier than the Micro Four Thirds camera, because the larger sensor has that focal length math that makes the background far more out of focus than a smaller sensor. Just changing the size of the sensor changes how your bokeh looks on camera. Now, yes, this is slightly out of focus on the webcam, but I'm also within an arm's length of the webcam. The further you get from the camera, the more the camera is going to push the focus away to be focused, and the more it's going to be pushed towards your background. So if you're looking to the S3 as your big bokeh webcam, that's not going to happen. That's not how webcams work. And it's not a fault of the YoloCam. Any webcam with any camera with a small sensor. I could have like a little point and shoot camera. I could have anything up here. Anything with a small sensor is going to have the same depth of field, because the math is the smaller this is, the bigger this is. And the bigger the sensor is, the more shallow that depth of field becomes. It's just, that's how the math works. And as a camera, the YoloCam is delivering. Now here's the other key thing. Let's go back to that side-by-side view. You can see the DSLR, I don't know why, but the white balance is kind of wonky again, and I'd have to adjust the exposure down. No, not that way. It looks more yellow. And Panasonics have always had an off-white standard look to me. Always. They've always had that, which is why when I take pictures, I actually don't use my Panasonic cameras. They're great for 4K video, but I use an Olympus for still photographs because the Olympus color science, I feel, is definitely superior to this yellow that's going on my face in the Panasonic camera. And this is after doing a manual white balance. I held up a white piece of paper and I told the camera to white balance right here with this light, and this is what I'm getting. Now, it looks okay, but when you compare the two, I dare say I kind of like the YoloCam color. Oh, don't look at that. That's the fast focus. I dare say I like the YoloCam a little bit better. I would have to dial in the minus exposure. You could, but I can't yet because you can't do that on a YOLO box. See, this is where being able to adjust the exposure maybe on the device through a little ring or something like that would be really handy. You can dial this in. You see how it's all overexposed on my forehead on the YoloCam, but not over here on the manual exposure of the DSLR. Being able to manually adjust the exposure is going to be critical to not blowing out, because by default, I think every webcam that has ever existed overexposes, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Let's do something really crazy. Let's put two webcams on here. All right, I've got the Logitech, and I'm going to plug that into the YOLO box as well. And we'll do a side-by-side between the Logitech and the YoloCam. Now, again, I'm not here to promote one over the other for, let's see, I got to tilt this down a little bit. Let's give you the overhead so you can see what I'm doing here. I have got my USB 2 and my USB 1. I am going to do my 2Views 1, which is the one we figured out works. USB 2, USB 1. One of the first things I can see is a definite difference done is that, come on, work with me. Done. Just going between the two of them. This is the Logitech, and you can see up here, let me go to the camera feed. It's up here. My big light is hitting the glass. So if you have any additional light in the room that's going to hit the camera, you can see the Logitech does an awful job. It just totally blows into the parts of the image that you can't even see the light, but in that teeny corner, but you can see the effects of that light all the way in here. Whereas you look at the YoloCam, it's actually tilted more at the light in my studio, and it has much better color. You can see it's still flaring a little bit, but the color is just so much better. It's, maybe it's coated optics. Maybe I should take the all of that was with the little thing on there. And yeah, that's, sorry. But now you can see it's even better. So yes, the coatings, the lens quality of the YoloCam, definitely a step up. And look at the contrast now. Wow. So that is the YoloCam. And this is the focus. Pretty darn good for a webcam. Let's go to the Logitech. There, it did focus. But you could really see that flaring coming in there. And now let's put them together. So Logitech, way blown out. And there's nothing you can do about it when you plug into a device like the YOLO box, because the YOLO box is not talking to the cameras. It's just accepting whatever the camera delivers as video. And then over here is the YoloCam. Definitely a clearer, closer image. Again, I can't control the zoom either, so this is the default for both of them. But you can see both of them overexposed. I don't know what you're looking at when most of the image is overexposed. And I wore this shirt deliberately because of the lines, so that when you look at this online and you can see, well, how does that really look in terms of capturing the quality of the video. And for the video version of this live, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to record in the YoloBox at 4K from these devices and see what the comparison is in the deliverable video from both of these devices. Again, the real magic would be being able to adjust the exposure and the focus and everything of the YoloCams on a YoloBox. Something OBSBot can't do either. OBSBot makes the talent, OBSBot makes cameras, and you can't go in and adjust the exposure of the OBSBots on their talent. They haven't built that connectivity. But if YOLO can do it, then that would mean that YOLO has another unique feature that puts them ahead of the competition by being able to take these little cameras, quickly deploy 3 cameras, because you've got 2 USBs on top and a USB-C on the bottom, quickly deploy 3 of these cameras in a little podcast setup and be able to manually go in there and make them look perfect for your 4K multi-camera USB live. That would be awesome, I think. And just looking at this though, you can see straight out of the box, let me back up here, straight out of the box, I think YoloCam definitely has the better look, but still overexposed. I can't use any webcam directly plugged into the YoloBox because the YoloBox does not know how to talk to the cameras and fix all this overexposedness. Whereas as you saw on the laptop, you can use the software and say, yeah, expose where you're going to expose, but do it a stop darker, do it 2 stops darker because you're always overexposed. And then the HDR lifts the blacks up a little bit and gives you a more even tone because you're not blowing out the highlights and you're saving the darks and you're evening that out. And that's what the HDR is doing in the software, thankfully. I wish, I hope that comes to the YOLO boxes, the Extreme and the Ultra first. I hope that really does come because those boxes have the multiple big USB ports, which are going to take definite advantage, and they're 4K to work with the 4K YoloCam S3. I think this is a fun little camera. I think the magnetic setup is actually really handy in terms of just being able to like plop, plop, plop. You could have literally have one little metal plate and just plop it down on top of it and it would stay there. Do I have a metal plate here that I could just do this? No, everything is aluminum. Aluminum is not magnetic, so that doesn't work. I have this. So you can just literally plop it down onto something and it'll stay there. And also like it makes it easy. Let me turn that a little bit. Let me adjust it. Or if you're going vertical, remember you got the vertical as well. It'll do that and it'll stay there so that you can, let me move those around so you can do your little vertical, multi-camera vertical. And these will just sit there. The USB camera cable sticks out the back. That is something to be aware of. You can definitely, do that, but you're going to have this sticking out the back of anything. The Logitech doesn't have that because the cable is integrated and you just have the cable coming out. So it's a little bit more discreet. But anything where you've got to plug in the cable is going to have that same issue. You could use a right angle. You could use a little right angle on here. But again, if you're going to do that, I would test it to make sure that the right angle is indeed carrying USB 3, is indeed carrying the power and delivering everything that the camera is going to try and deliver. So again, I will put a link to the tester in the video description and feel free to get it there if it is something that you feel is going to benefit you now that we all have 10,000 different USB cables and we don't know what all of them are for. Oh, wrong mouse. We have Lee says, that tester is amazing. I have so many leads, some dating back 15 years. I could probably recycle 75% of them. I am a lead. Absolutely. I actually had to divide up my drawers. I have one drawer for USB micro and lightning. That's the old USB. I have a second drawer for USB that includes C, which is like this good cable. And then I have a third drawer, which is just USB-C to USB-C. And when I started testing those, I was really surprised. I've found USB-C to USB-C that did not do USB 3, which kind of blew my mind. I'm like, do I even need to keep that cable? Because now there's chargers that have only USB-C. And if I want to just charge something, do I just write, it's a power cable on there, because it's not going to deliver USB 3. It'll do 2, it'll do data, but it doesn't do 3. So, you know, I need to like come up with some sort of naming system like power 2 and 3, or Thunderbolt, T for Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt is a USB-C cable, but it has different properties. And I do have Thunderbolt devices as well. So knowing what cable is a Thunderbolt cable is a whole other layer as well. And this one does actually indicate what is a Thunderbolt cable. So I hope that does help anyone who's watching the show, who's now coming into this new age where we all have 1,000 USB cables going back very far. And what can they do? What is it? What speed is it? What power is it? The screens telling you what leads doesn't necessarily help me, but if you are more knowledgeable about, you know, what does what, that could definitely be useful to you. And I think talking about making the most of your YoloCam S3, you want to make sure that the cable you use, if you don't want to use the heavy cable that it comes with, that you've tested it and you know that it is good for both power and for USB 3. That's going to be key, because again, not all USB-C cables will do USB 3. In fact, as I showed, some USB-C cables don't do data at all. So knowledge is power. Thank you all for being here. I want to say one hello to Duval Video from Arlington, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Thank you for watching. And again, I love doing these shows for you guys. I will be back here again next week. And, you know, if you have any questions or comments, throw them down into the comments area. I will look forward to seeing you all next week. I don't know what the show is going to be yet. Can't talk about the TinyCam, but I will look forward to talking with you all next time. Till then, thanks for watching.